While I think about it, I'm going to make a story time here. I watched my Hanai Nathan, Revan Three's Adventures. He lives in Lane County, Oregon, roughly Eugene, and he went to Burning Man. Now, granted, it was Labor Day. It was 2 months ago, a month ago, no, 2 months ago. But he made like a 47-minute video, and I watched it in a couple of pieces because, bluntly, I, I don't have that much stamina anymore. So it's really good. He does an excellent job. He's an excellent videographer, and I'm going to link to it. But I'm making this. He overland camps, which we call boondocking if he had an RV, but he sleeps in a tent, like he either sleeps in his SUV or on top of his SUV. And I can't remember, but I'll see if I can't screenshot and pip in what his travel rig is. But that's not why I'm making this. On his way to Burning Man, and he moseyed there and moseyed back, he was dry camping on either Forest Service or BLM land. And he wakes up in the morning, and there's a wild Mustang kind of where he could see it and they could see each other. And he talks about that. So I'll link to that. But in 1970, my parents and my aunt and uncle, my Uncle Hank and my Auntie Carol, they had 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy. And my parents had 4 boys, my 3 brothers and myself. And they decided it was an outstanding idea for us all to hike overnight from wherever the base camp was in the Tetons. I want to say it's up to Jenny Lake, but I can't remember the name of the lake. But it was like a 9 or 9.5 mile hike in and out. Well, my parents severely overestimated they underestimated our abilities. And my youngest brother and my youngest cousin were 7, and I was 9. And we're packing our packs, and it's warm. It's the summer, even though it's Wyoming. It's still warm sometimes. And we got to a point where we were not gonna make it, not before the sun set. So my uncle and my dad scoped out like a meadow, and we set up camp in the meadow. Was it legal? No. Did we have a choice? No. And I think in the morning the ranger had come by and said, you can't camp here. And my dad and my uncle explained, we didn't have a lot of choice. The ranger was cool. It's not like now. It was a much different time. But in the morning, my dad got up early. Now my dad's always armed. We didn't really know. He didn't open carry necessarily, but him and my Uncle Hank were armed. And my dad went down to the creek to get fresh water for our canteens and to make breakfast with. And he has his head down like this, and he's dealing with the canteen. And the trick, as I understand it, is you dip it down as deep as you can, because a lot of the impurities are on the top, so you get down underneath that. Anyway, he's dealing with that, and he looks up, and literally right across the creek is an enormous moose or elk, just huge. And my dad doesn't freak, and my dad has a sidearm, but a 38, you better hit this moose in the head about half a dozen times. Anyway, the moose didn't feel that my dad was a threat. My dad certainly wasn't a threat, and they just kind of eyeballed each other, and that was that. But I remember the story, and I've seen the film. I wish my mom had it all on DVD. Mom, when you watch this, something you may want to consider, all the Wyoming stuff. So my dad has faced a moose from across the creek, maybe 30 or 40 yards, but by God, close enough where if that moose or elk wanted to charge my dad, it would have been lights out for him. So Nathan's little clip reminded me of that. So here is your 5-minute story time with Josef about my dad and a moose or an elk in very, very rural Wyoming in the Grand Teton National Park, eyeballing each other. This is Joe, as always your host, Joe, Life with Josef, Story Time. Enjoy your day. Peace be with you, and we'll see you for the next one.